Hi, everybody. This is Rosemary DiTrolio, Hands Alight by Rosemary, and I'm here with my co friends, and we are Ask for Coaches for You. And today we're going to have a discussion about boundaries and the ability to say no and to kind of stand in your power. And I'd like to introduce my wonderful friends here that are co-presenting this with me. I have Mary Crawford, The Joy of Being Well. Rita Desnoyer Garcia with becomingawake.com, Jolie Roy from Jolie Roy Coaching, and me, Rosemary DiTrolio, Hands Alight by Rosemary. So I'd like to just start with each one of you, just your idea of what a boundary is and why a client might come to you. And we'll just kind of discuss and see what we can come up with. Anybody want to start?
Well, I was just thinking of the discussion that I came into before we hit record on this call was about where you're from, where's your DNA from? And you're naming countries and regions, and all I can think of is, yeah, those are places with boundaries.
Oh.
So in other words, how do we know where we are? Because we have a container and a boundary. You know what I mean? It's a form of identity. It's a form of focus.
Right.
And so I feel like for me, like I work with moms, right? Stressed out moms. And that's a huge thing with them is not having boundaries because they're used to multitasking and taking care of being kind of the octopus doing 8 different things, which is kind of part of the job. But at the same time, if you do that and you don't have a boundary, you're lost. You don't have a focal point. You're not grounded. You're all over the place. And you're not, as much as people think that when they're doing multitasking, they're doing a spectacular job. We know they're probably not. So, and I only know that because I've done that. So I feel like part of the boundary conversation that I'm really interested in and that I help people with is the idea of when you don't have boundaries, you're actually doing a disservice to yourself and others. So boundaries are really important to help focus. They help ground. They help identify, and then you can be more effective in whatever you're doing and being and having. So I just wanted to throw that in the mix.
I so agree with you. I was thinking about even like clients that come to me may have boundary issues because their kids are reaching an age where they've controlled everything about them till like the age of 16, 17, 18. All of a sudden, now you have an adult ready to go to college and the parent doesn't know how to pull back and allow the person to be the adult they're becoming. So I deal with a lot of people that come to me for that reason, or even boundaries with a spouse. That's really common. They'll come in saying, I don't know who I am anymore. My kids are grown. What do I do? Where do I go? You know, I'm lost. And the same thing, it's like you have to know your boundary, but you also have to know that you don't really have limits other than the ones you placed on yourself. Yeah, so it's kind of a two-way to look at it.
Yeah, and let's talk about the physical feeling of boundaries, because when you think about, you get into a situation and you feel like you're being closed in or somebody's backing you up against a wall, yeah, exactly. They're taking you by the throat or whatever. Your body will tell you that there is a boundary there that somebody's crossing and they may not realize it. And telling somebody that, I'm sorry, I can't know, or whatever it is you need to tell them, is okay for them to say that, even though it might alienate that person and that person may not need to be in your life. But yeah, your body's going to tell you that a boundary's been crossed.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
Yeah, I got one thing that comes up for me about boundaries is that we actually invite people to challenge our boundaries when our hearts are closed. And that is, when I first learned this, it felt like such a contradiction, because we tend to pull in and close ourselves off when we're feeling threatened. But actually that invites energy to try to break through, try to attack, because we feel vulnerable. But when our hearts are completely open, and I've seen this demonstrated in large groups of people where somebody would close their heart and then have people just shout and say all these mean things about them from the audience. But then when they open their heart, people tried to do the same thing and they've couldn't think of anything mean to say. It's like,
it's beautiful.
So open your heart. When you open your heart, you drop the barriers and you make yourself safer. because your heart's so powerful.
I believe that so much. I mean, our energy from our heart and our love energy is so strong, and the vibration is so great that I've seen it happen even with people like you're saying. You know, you have them stand in the front of the group, and I muscle test them on how they're feeling. And I have people send like negative vibes, and I muscle test them and they're weak, and then positive vibes and they're strong, even without realizing they're reacting to that because their back is to the audience.
Mhm.
So that's really a powerful reminder, Mary.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. It's very
Vulnerability as a superpower.
I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's scary at first though, isn't it?
Mhm.
You know, when you first like
Yeah.
are vulnerable to the world, it's a little scary, but it's powerful once you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that a lot of my clients find confusing is this idea of being kind and being compassionate and having no boundaries.
Oh,
Like they think,
yes.
Mhm.
often people say to me, yeah, I've tried being compassionate, but they just walk all over me.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I don't know if I want to be compassionate because I don't want to be with them, you know?
Right,
And it's
right.
like, guess what? You actually, compassion could be that you're not with them.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Like that could be the most compassionate thing you can do, is to actually have a
Yes.
boundary and say,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be with these people in this physical location, or I'm going to dictate when we communicate and not have them just come over whenever they want.
Right.
And
You
that's
have to, yeah.
revelatory to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really important when you have somebody, like I have a neighbor next door, and she doesn't know where boundaries are for anybody, because she'll call me at all hours knowing that 5 o'clock is a time that I don't want her to call. She stopped by yesterday and she gives us stuff. And so I have internally, I have told her before, but I just close it off because I don't want her to do that. So there are times when I won't answer her call. And, you know, when she came by yesterday, my husband was downstairs, but when she came by yesterday, she wanted to talk. And I know that if she starts talking, it's going to be a half an hour before I can get her out the door.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to be pretty strict about some folks who
Mhm.
don't understand what boundaries are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Speaking to what Rita was saying about compassion, I think it's hard for women especially, and but not just women, to give themselves compassion. If you can give yourselves compassion first, it's the whole airplane thing, you know, put your gas mask on first before you help your kids. You have to give yourself compassion first, and then you can be so much more compassionate toward others.
Yeah.
So you have so much more to give that way. But we
Yeah.
have to take care of ourselves. And this is the year where we get to play and have fun and take care of ourselves and feel good about that. So
I agree.
I don't know.
Beautiful.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Rita.
well, I was just going to say, I don't know if we're at the point where we're talking about ways to do this.
Sure.
I don't know if we want to jump into that or not,
Sure,
or because I know Mary
sure.
has some ideas, but one of the things that I was thinking about is a lot of my clients say, okay, this is all well and good, but what do I do when it
Mhm.
hits the fan and I'm on the phone and someone's trying to get me to say yes to something and I really don't want to, or I don't know, I think I should, but maybe I don't want to. And so I have them like memorize sometimes little phrases, like little
Yes.
cheat sheet.
Yes.
And one that I love is, I can't say yes to that now. And it's just like, thank you so much. It's a very generous offer. I can't say yes to that now. Can I get back to you? Can I get back to you?
I love that one. I've
Just
used
gives
that
you some
myself.
space to think.
Yes, yes. As a former people pleaser, I have learned that, you know, and it was very hard when I was younger to not like be there when someone asked, but you know, you get physically and emotionally drained if you don't learn that lesson. So very soon I started learning, you know, it was okay to say no to request, and you know, I really can't do that right now. I'll get back to you, and that saved me a lot of angst and energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point,
Let's-
Rita.
Yeah, let's talk about the corporate world too, because coming from that background, and I don't know if any of the three of you have ever been in the corporate world,
I
but
have.
yeah, but when somebody asks you to do something and you're, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. And then you find that you're overloaded. You know, I used to be that way. And, you know, scheduling things on my calendar, I'd see I had back to back to back to back meetings. that was really tough, and it creates so much stress because you're trying to get something done. And this goes back to, I think, what Rita, you were saying earlier about, saying yes to everything, and then you're not productive. Because at the end of the day, you look back at what you've done, and you've done absolutely nothing except attend, 8
Other
meetings
people.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And you didn't get your project done or whatever you're working on. So
Right.
it's really important, even as an employee of
Mhm.
some, a corporation, to, not stress yourself out by saying yes to everything. Give
Yeah.
give your managers or whatever, hey, I can do this today, and then I can start on this maybe in 2 days when I finish this one thing. So
Yeah.
it's very important to make sure that you can actually do the work.
Resentments can
Good
be
point.
like poison. So I think if people are so used to saying yes, it could create resentment. And that just is kind of like cutting off your nose to spite your face. You just feel all tangled up, and it's a very unhealthy, toxic way to be. And you're thinking, oh, I'm being so nice. But in the same token, you're not being nice to yourself. You're beating yourself up and not
Mhm.
appreciating who you are.
So you want some tools to give yourself
Yes.
something simple that, well, there's a couple of things that come to mind really quick, but let's say you're confronted by a boss who is just dumping all this stuff on you. I love what you're talking about already. Maybe, let me put that on my list and I'll get to it as soon as I can. And I really honor what you're asking me to do. Thank you for thinking of me, those kinds of things. But the other thing you can do is just a really quick muscle test, body test.
Mhm.
Does this serve me? Does this align with my energy? If you don't know muscle testing, the lean technique is just a really easy one, and you can do it with nobody even knowing you're doing it, right? If you think about it and you just kind of relax into it, and if your body goes forward, that's a yes. If it goes backward, that's maybe not right now.
Mhm.
So you can do that. You can do the finger pull under the table or whatever your boss wants while you're doing it. The other thing is, like, when you're walking into a networking or a big meeting or someplace where there's a lot of people, and you're not really sure how it's going to go, and you're not really sure, if you're going to have friends there or not. First thing you want to do is put your barriers down. We talked about that a minute ago. Barriers down, barriers down. I'm not going to go in there all closed off. I'm going to go in there with an open heart. And the other thing you can do is you can actually pull energy from everybody in the room before you even walk in. And you're not pulling their energy, you're pulling the energy of unconditional love, which is all around us all the time. And you're just thinking, you just imagine that you can pull, I always pictured it as a violet light, that you're just pulling this violet light through the hearts of everybody in that room before you walk into that meeting or before you walk into that networking group or whatever. And just feel it going through them and through you and through them and through you. And you walk in and they're like, oh, you're here. And it's a whole different energy. One more thing, I always, if you're in a tight situation, I call on my angels, I call on my guides. I'm like, take care of this for me. I'm turning it over to you. Or use some oils. Tea tree oil is a great barrier oil. Clove is a great barrier oil. Both of those oils can do different things about putting barriers around you for energy and protection. So I wanted to share those.
That's awesome. I love frankincense for that reason. Frankincense oil and white angelica as protective.
Yeah.
But again, the heart, like I love what you said with the heart energy, because before I'll go into a talk, I kind of spread heart energy out into the room before I arrive. And then people get that energy when I come in, or from me, and it makes you very approachable.
Yeah.
That's a great advice, Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So let's see. So the other thing I was going to say is sometimes, like we're talking about saying no. And I had a friend of mine who, whenever they said no, their voice would go up at the end, like they really mean it. And I'm like, you can't say no like that because it sounds so wishy-washy. So again, you're saying practicing. So practice the way that you say no in a kind way, because no is a complete sentence, not a paragraph. I always had a paragraph years ago, but now it's like I can say it, but it's how you say it as well, the energy behind it that gives it a compassionate no for another time, or I'll consider it, but not today. So
Yeah.
I think just
Yeah.
practicing how to say no is scary until you do it.
And
Yeah, I
being
think
in
that-
your core when you say it, because that's where your power is, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You can stand in front of a mirror and say
Mhm.
no, and you could take a deep breath before
Yeah.
you say no. And you can say no and say, like you said, Rosemary, earlier, I honor, or I think it was Mary, I honor you or your request, but I'm going to have to say no at this time. You could say no that way.
yeah,
But sometimes people hear no and they hear, I don't like you or whatever. So
Yeah.
you have to
yeah.
either preface it or use your heart energy or something to let them know that you're not saying no to that person as a person. It's just their
Yes.
request.
The request. That's a good point,
Mhm.
Jolie.
I just wanted to add, because
Mhm.
everyone here has a lot of experience in doing this and everyone sounds really confident, but whoever's watching this video may not be confident. And I know you kind of put a lot of caveats on that. I just want you to know, whoever's watching this, if you're not used to doing this, it may be messy. You
Mhm.
may want to curl up on the couch in a fetal position after you do it. You may have feelings about it. You may feel guilty. Like, I was a huge people pleaser. Everyone had to like me all the time. So saying no was like cutting myself off from the tribe. It felt very
Mhm.
dangerous and risky and heart pounding.
Uh-huh.
And I remember saying no, like it was like school activities. I was just like being asked constantly to my kids' school activities, and I didn't really want to get involved. And for whatever reason, so I chose my battle. I just decided I'm not going to volunteer for long-term things. I'm only going to volunteer for finite things. So I made that decision. One time, one day, 1 hour type things.
Mhm.
And so that was good. I was just like making a little compromise. But then when I was asked for other things, I had to say no, and it was really hard. So I would literally say no. Either it was a email or text or whatever. Maybe there wasn't even texting at that time. But I remember going home and feeling the guilt and laying on the couch in a fetal position. I mean, it brought up all this stuff. Just saying no to someone about volunteering at a school function. Are they talking about me? Am I a bad mom now? All that stuff came up. And then it was okay. Like, the person was like, oh, okay. And they went on to the next person, right?
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
just want to send that out there. Like, it's may be messy. It may not be perfect. You may not be good at it in the beginning. Just keep doing it. It gets easier. It gets easier as you do it.
It does. And I think for me, it's like, oh my gosh, they're not going to like me if I say no. Like, that's me younger, and I'm like, you know what? It's okay, because they would like me if I say no or yes. And if the person likes me, they like me. And if they don't, they don't. And it took a while,
Yeah, it's hard. I think remembering that the rewards of freedom are
Mhm.
so much more than the temporary discomfort of doing something out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But you have to do it a couple times before you realize that. So
Do you guys all write in your calendar, like if you have an appointment for yourself, it could be something like getting my hair done or going for a walk. Do you guys add it in for yourself so that way nothing can impede that time for you? You all do that?
Yes.
That's been a
Yeah.
lifesaver for me,
Yeah.
especially when
Yeah.
you're busy, to plan
Yep.
it for yourself.
Lunch
absolutely.
times,
Yep.
breakfast time.
Yep.
And as you were
Absolutely.
talking,
Whatever.
yeah, as you were talking, Rita, it made me think about being, switching it around and being the person that somebody asks, and they say, you ask somebody and they say no. And what do you do when you find somebody is saying no to you? You've gotta put yourself in the other person's shoes too. And
Yes.
how you handle that by asking a question or asking for a favor. I always say, hey, can you do me a favor?
Mm-hmm.
I always say it that way, and I've noticed that I do that. So it doesn't sound like such a demand. But I also am very conscious of that person's time and what they can put energy into. So I think that's the only, the thing about the people pleasing. I think that's where
Yeah.
it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
But being the person that asks for something and being told no,
I
how do
think
you
it's
handle
hard.
that rejection?
I think it's hard for us, like when you're used to being the one that always does for others. I had a really hard time allowing people to do for me. And now I'm a little better at it now, but in a long time ago, I was really having a hard time. I'd never tell anybody if I was having a problem, if I needed help. It's like I wanted to do it all myself. And of course I wound up getting exhausted from it because that's what happens. But it was hard asking for help if you're that kind of person. You just feel like you shouldn't, you should be losing yourself. And it's a while to break that habit before you realize that's very counterproductive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take care of you first. One other thing I wanted to kind of throw in here and hear what you guys think about this is, we're telling people how to say no. And we're telling people that it's okay to say no. And I totally agree with that. But I think you can take it too far and lose out on some really good, exciting adventures for yourself if you say no too often. So that's where I do the muscle testing, really asking my energy, my body, does this feel good for you? Does this feel like something that's going to bring you some fun or some benefit or some joy or some money or, whatever it is that you're looking for? Because we can get really good at saying no and end up living like a hermit.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that either.
Have you guys tried
Good point.
something? Have you tried you're saying, to say yes to something? Have you guys tried something that scared you to do? Like, what have you tried that scared you? Like, I learned how to ride a horse in my mid-30s because I was afraid of riding a horse. So is it something like weird that you tried that, you said yes to that was fun or?
I said yes to something that wasn't so much fun. It was a job that I had, and this was years ago, and I was a very shy person. So you all know that I'm really, really shy, right? No. But I was asked to moderate a big company meeting that had 200 people. And I had to get up on stage to do this. And, the sweat was rolling down and everything. And I did it. And it was at that time that I knew I had to get out of my comfort zone. And since then, I had become, a trainer, facilitator, workshops. I'm not afraid to get in front of people. I used to do orientation for parents and students when I worked at a university. So yeah, that is a big one. That was a big one for me. And that was a long time ago. And now I'm fine in front of audiences.
Great. Great.
I took a stand-up course, a stand-up comedy course about 5 years ago, and I was terrified to even register for it. Like literally my hand was shaking registering for it. Then I took the course, and part of the course was to do the show. That was the graduation, was to do the show. So then I had to do, I think I did 7 minutes on stage with original material. And I was shaken like a leaf. I was in the back of the club going, oh my gosh, I can't remember anything I'm supposed to say. Why is this guy yammering on stage? He's distracting me, Got up there, said the first joke, people started laughing, and then it all kind of unfolded. And it tell you the truth, it felt almost like my wedding day. That's how big of a thing it was. And after that, I went to the back of the bar. I think I had a drink. I was really like, oh my gosh. And a mom came up to me because all my jokes were about motherhood. And she said, I never get out. I have 3 kids too. And I have to say, I laughed so hard. I almost peed my pants.
That's a good compliment.
And I was like, you're welcome about that. But I just thought I was doing it just for me. It was on like my bucket list, right? And here's this woman saying, I'm so glad I came to this show. I never get out. She was literally releasing, right, all this stuff.
Nice.
And I thought, wow, I had no idea. Like that was also service too.
Yes.
And I had no idea when I had the impulse to do it, what it was leading to.
Nice.
So much reward.
Love that.
Yeah.
So now we call you Mrs. Meisel.
There you go.
That's right. That's right. Marvelous.
Marvelous.
Mrs. Meisel.
Marvelous Rita. So what have you done, Mary? I know you probably have something tucked away.
So many things. I'm the elder here, so I sold diamond investments. So I drove 3 hours to a convention when I was a diamond investment seller. And it turns out I was the only woman at this convention.
Oh,
It was like,
You were the diamond in the rough.
there you go.
oh my God, it was, talk about nerve-wracking. But I remember back in high school, I was also extremely shy. Like the teachers even thought there was something wrong with me all through school, because I never talked. And I took a class in high school where it was a public speaking class.
Mm,
And I had all my grandmother's 78 records of Brahms, because my grandmother was a concert pianist and my grandfather was a baritone, and they toured together, and so I had these beautiful records, and I absolutely loved Brahms and listening to him. So I thought, well, this is something I love. I'm going to put something together about this. And I was, like you said, terrified. Everybody's, shaking, got up in front of the class and started talking about, for the first time in my life, started talking about something, and it went so well. It's like I got passionate, I got excited. It went, and I learned from that when it's something that you're passionate about, those butterflies you're feeling are not necessarily fear, they're excitement. They're that energy of, yes, this is the vibration that I'm supposed to be at. And oh my gosh, it made such a difference in everything that I did after that.
beautiful.
Just having that experience.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. We're coming up on the half hour, ladies. And I loved our conversation today. And I wanted us to just tell people how they can contact us. So we're going to mention our website, or however they can get in touch with you. And I know we all offer a discovery session for those people that are interested in finding out more about what we do, to ask us questions. So mine is rosemaryd.com, info@rosemaryd.com, Hands of Light by Rosemary, and Grow Your Spirit books. So I've got 2 websites. Okay, rest. Mary, go ahead.
I'm Mary at thejoyofbeingwell.com. Thejoyofbeingwell.com is my website. And if you click on Work with Mary or schedule a session, there is a free discovery session there. So thejoyofbeingwell.com.
Okay, Jolie.
So my website is jolieroycoaching.com. My email is jolieroycoaching@gmail.com. And on my website, there is a half-hour discovery session, free, and you can schedule me right through my website.
Okay, Rita.
Well, my website is becomingawake.com. And if you click on contact, you'll see a free Calm Mom call, which is 60 minutes long. And I'll get in touch with you.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you all. I'm going to just stop the recording, and we hope we get questions next time from our listening audience, and you can feel free to send them our way. Thank you.